What's going on? Albie with Albie Fitness Gaming, and you've seen the title of the video. You know why you're here. Bah! Green, white, hate bears. So, before we get into some games, we're going to go through a deck tech here, just like everybody does, so you guys kind of have an understanding of how the deck works, why we choose certain cards, and so on. So, the first thing you want to understand about hate bears is that there is technically two versions of the deck. You have what they call the Death and Taxes, which is the mono white, sometimes they splash green, and you use Aether Vial versus Collected Company. Now in that deck, because you use Aether Vial, you're not going to use Knight of the Reliquary, you're going to use Flicker Wisp because it's just a better card in that deck. Especially since Knight of the Reliquary does not play well with Leon Arbiter. Leon Arbiter is one of the staples in the Death and Taxes deck. It is one of the strategies because of Aether Vial. Now, we're not playing that. We're playing the Collected Company version, so we're allowed to play, in my opinion, better cards, like Knight of the Reliquary, Voice of Resurgence. We don't have to worry about working around our Stoneforge Mystic. But one thing to take away about the lands here is Ghost Quarters. Our Ghost Quarters are more of utility lands. They're not really meant to mana screw our opponent like in the Death and Taxes deck, right? These lands are here to take care of maybe a Tron land for a turn or two in order for us to try to kill them before they can kill us, which, to be honest, Tron is still a horrible matchup. But it's really just utility, get rid of annoying lands that the opponent may have. It also can be used to ramp up your Knight of the Reliquary to make them bigger and swing in for lethal. So then we have the Dryad Arbor. We have a one singleton Dryad Arbor. This card is really bad, like if it's in your opening hand, but usually it's really good to fetch outwits for a surprise blocker. It also has good synergy here with Scrib Ranger here. Let me pull Scrib Ranger here because I know a lot of you probably never seen this card, or maybe briefly. Scrib Ranger is a really cool, neat card for this deck. And it plays well with Dryad Arbor because you can block with the Dryad Arbor because it is a creature and a forest. You could return it back with the Scrib Ranger so it takes no damage. That can also prevent your opponent from gaining life with a Batterskull. Scrib Ranger is in this because it helps you replay your lands. If you don't have a land, you can bounce a forest, untap your noble, play your forest again, generate 4 mana out of 2 mana producing things. So you can kind of ramp up with Scrib Ranger. It also plays very well with Knight of the Reliquary, allowing you to activate the Knight of the Reliquary multiple times per turn. And it has flash, so this card is a very tricky card. This card there's been so many times that I have just completely destroyed my opponent because this card came in, they weren't expecting it. I was able to activate Knight multiple times, and you know, it's hard to really calculate damage when you don't know that your opponent is playing this tricky little guy. Then we have, of course, Gavin Township works good with your Mana Dorks or your Weenies. And, of course, Dryad Arbor. Dryad Arbor is also good. I don't know if I mentioned because we do have a lot of equipment here. And then we have our basic forest, 4 forests, 2 plains. We play a lot of basics because we are going to be sacking them to the Knight of Reliquary. Also because we do have a singleton Scrib Ranger, which we do return forest. We don't want to be returning pain lands or shock lands. And then, of course, we have our Windswept Heath, Wooded Foothills, just, you know, obvious. 4 Path to Exiles, 2 Birds of Paradise, 4 Noble Hierarchs. That's going to be our ramp. We do rely sometimes on Exalted. We do have the 2 Quasali Pride Mages, but we will get to that shortly. We, of course, have Stoneforge Mystic, fetch out our swords and our Batterskull. This is part of the beatdown plan, one of our finishers here. Then we have Scavenging Ooze as utility, Scrib Ranger like I mentioned. Quasali Pride Mage is a good beatdown creature because it does have Exalted. Also, it's a good utility creature because it can destroy target artifact or enchantment. This is really relevant in a metagame where there is a lot of Stoneforge Mystic running around. That way it allows your Skyclave to take care of bigger threats. Then we play 3 Voice of Resurgence. Really good against control, really good against other grindy decks, which are things that this deck can struggle against. So this card, the Voice of Resurgence, glues that together for you. Then we have, of course, one of the best cards. One of the reasons I believe this deck is actually playable again is Skyclave Operation. It basically takes care of any issue that you have. This is why I like playing the 2 Quasali Pride Mages, because it allows you to freely use these on bigger threats. Then of course we have Rabanap Excavator. You can get a lot of value with your Horizon Canopies, reuse your Ghost Quarters. If they kill your Gavin or your Dryad Arbor, you can bring that back. Then of course Knight of the Reliquary. You know, fetch everything out. This is your beatdown plan, your finisher, and then your swords, and then of course the one and only Collected Company. As far as the sideboard, we have 3 Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. Now this can go either in the main deck and replace the Voice of Resurgence, and Voice of Resurgence can go into the sideboard. This depends on the meta. Right now the meta is, we don't really know what's going on. I mean, there's Blitz, there's Burn. A lot of people think that Thalia is good against those, but they're not, because they have like Lava Dart and a lot of ways to get rid of Thalia. So we kind of want blockers and creatures that come back. Voice of Resurgence just fits that role better. This is good against like other combo decks that rely on spells. So great card. We're going to keep it in the sideboard for now. Winds of Abandonment if we need some type of mass removal. We're not really going to be using it for one removal. That's not really the goal here, because we have Sky and we have Pass for that. But this is for decks that go real wide. This is to assure those matches. Then we got Aven Mind Sensor, just good hate bear, good against Tron, Scathe Shift. It's randomly good against other decks that play a lot of fetch land. It can randomly be good if we're using Ghost Quarters. And it's flying, which you can attach equipment to. So it's just one of those solid cards. Fairy Macabre. So we can't really play Rest in Peace, which is possibly one of the best graveyard hate cards, because we do rely on Voice of Resurgence and Knight of the Reliquary. And we have Rabanap Excavator. So we do rely on our graveyard a lot. So the other option is, what is that? Something of the Void. Leyline of the Void. But the problem that I've seen with that card is, it's good when you have it, but when you don't and you're mulliganing to it, like, you still have to have threats to finish the game. And if you draw it, like, you can't cast it unless you have both Birds of Paradise out. What this allows you to do, it allows you to get hit with Collected Company if you need a creature. You can also sometimes cast it with Birds of Paradise, and usually against graveyard decks, because they can't counter this, you can remove whatever the troublesome cards are. Okay, usually it's only going to be 1 or 2 cards you want to take care of anyways, but I mean, it is what it is. I still think Rest in Peace is better, but it cannot be played in this deck, so this is our next best choice. This or Tormod's Crypt. Or is Relic decent? Maybe Tormod's Crypt, but I like this better. Then we have Knight of Autumn. Great utility creature. It's pretty much a staple in all the green-white hate bear style decks, because it does so much. You can destroy target artifact or enchantment. You can gain life. It can just be a beater. Just a really good solid card. And then we have Phyrexian Revoker. This is to stop Planeswalker or any activated abilities that we're having trouble taking care of with Skyclave or Pride Mage. Another solid creature there. So, there you have it, folks. The deck tech for Green White Company Hate Bears. And we're going to go ahead and jump into some games.